There has been a lot of buzz, pardon my pun, about honeybees in the news lately. And if you've been skipping to the comics section, there is one very important thing you need to know. Honeybees are dying. Quickly. Rapidly, and if we don't do anything to help, if we don't listen to these canaries in our coal mine world, who knows how long it will be until we follow. Honeybees have been vital to our American ecosystem ever since Columbus and his gang of settlers brought them to the colonies along with disease and disorder. Honeybees were, in fact, one of the only beneficial things early colonial travelers brought with them from Europe. Since the days of the Mayflower, honeybees have been vital to American crop production. Until the last 50 years or so, honeybees have been treated as imperative and almost worshipped as they were in ancient Egypt by small-scale farmers. And then, towards the middle of the 20th century, around the time when women and minorities started to receive more liberties and rights, honeybee colonies found that their rights and importance was being forgotten by large-scale industry. As a world population, we have increased exponentially over the past century. In America, a culture based on consumerism, this boost in people meant a boost in large-scale farming. And thus, bees became more relevant and less appreciated. I've been working with the bees, both those in my backyard and countrywide, for the past 8 years now. And in that time, I've seen their populations continue to decline as ours continue to grow. As a 4th grader, I frequented Baskin-Robbins more than any other establishment. And so when my mother cryptically informed me that 1 in every 3 bites of food we ate, including many of my favorite ice cream flavors, would disappear forever with the bees, it was enough of an epiphany to start my plight in the favor of the bees. While I now think of the honeybees as more than just producers of ingredients in my favorite dessert, I still think it is important to emphasize just how important they are to our food supply. Laboratories in China tried to pollinate crops with humans and robots alike, and, needless to say, the experiment failed in 24 hours. There's no debating that honeybees are absolutely imperative to our world. So, what is going so wrong for our honeybee populations, and how can we help? Imagine eating the same food for months at a time, having to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. While I'm sure some of you can imagine the latter, this mixed with the former is the life of the overworked honeybee. These incredibly hardworking insects are being pushed to their limits as they are trucked around the country 365 days a year without break, pollinating some of our most consumed crops. A single almond takes almost 10 gallons of water to grow. Along with this incredibly difficult fact for all of us in the midst of a drought, billions of honeybees die every year in California's plentiful fields of almonds. Put yourself in the body of a honeybee. You would have to eat essentially almonds every single day until you die, as you only live without the trauma of transportation and stress for a few months anyway. Imagine choking on exhaust fumes from the truck that is your home for days on end, or trying to catch up with the same vehicle as you're left behind in the fields when it's time to pack up, and thus lose your whole purpose in life. While there are multiple other factors that I will address, it is entirely possible that honeybees are dying from stress as much as anything else. Smoking cigarettes kills. Tobacco, pipes, cigars, we have all heard the PSAs. Yet many people continue to smoke. Why? Because, along with being incredibly carcinogenic, cigarettes and other nicotine-laced items of their caliber are extremely addictive. We know this. Doctors have warned us, our parents have lectured us, our science teacher has shown us the videos with the bad teeth and the tubes and the chemo. Nicotine is bad for our health. But did you know that nicotine also plays a huge role in the food we eat, and is one of the major contributors to the potential loss of 30% of our food supply? Nicotine-laced neonicotinoids, or neonics as they are most commonly known, are one of the leading causes in the disappearance of the honeybees. Neonicotinoids are a systemic pesticide taken up through the roots and leaves and distributed throughout the entire plant, including the pollen and nectar. They were first produced in the 1990s to act as a safer insecticide, and were deemed so in the sense that smaller amounts could kill more populations of insects than any pesticide before. Now, there is irrefutable research which draws parallels between the death of honeybees and the distribution of neonics. While neonicotinoids' main goal is to kill other insects, honeybees are drawn towards them. This is particularly worrying as honeybees usually have a good sense of the toxicity of a certain plant which they choose to pollinate. This is not the case with neonics. This is because the nicotine in the neonics triggers a similar release of dopamine in honeybees' brains, almost identical to the reaction that happens when humans come into contact with the addictive chemical. Honeybees in the field have been purposely seeking out those crops which have been sprayed with neonicotinoids. Thus, hundreds of colonies living near neonic-sprayed crops have been dying. And they will continue to die unless we petition for a stop to these dangerous insect drugs. We need to stop our honeybees from smoking. Neonicotinoids are being sold every day by major hardware and garden stores. The frustrating thing is that, like many other chemicals and pesticides, the fact that neonicotinoids have been sprayed onto the roots of plants is very well hidden. Through my research of this pesticide, I was able to dip my toe into the field of investigative journalism when I took a field trip to my local Home Depot. I was upset, saddened, and a little betrayed that the labels were so hidden. The plastic cards that I was pulling up earlier at Home Depot are the identification card for the plant, and then behind it, in the same shape so it's hidden, is a card that reads, "This plant is protected from problematic aphids, whiteflies, beetles, mealybugs, and other unwanted pests by neonicotinoids," and the other unwanted pests include the honeybees, unfortunately. These were in every single plant that I walked by at Home Depot. Imagine all the other Home Depots and garden stores across America and all the plants they sell. Imagine their profit every year, and then imagine what the honeybees have to deal with, not only in the field, but at home too. Honeybees are fighting a war, and we can either help them or continue to support their enemies. I have found that the most useful thing to do is to stop buying neonicotinoid-sprayed plants. Find stores that refuse to sell you toxic garden varieties, like Annie's Annuals in Berkeley. If you really want to make an impact, write to your local government to complain about the use of neonics in your community. While I have only raised around $7,000 over 8 years, compared to the millions of dollars Bayer spends every year on lobbying efforts to keep their pesticides in use, I truly believe that every little bit counts in the fight against neonics and the disappearance of the honeybees. Bayer is one corporation, but we are billions of people. If we band together over this common tragedy shared by all humans on the globe, not only might we have a more cohesive environment, but we just might make a difference.